We're live, but we're not on the screen.
Oh.
So wait, what do we look here or there?
Just look straight.
Or everywhere? Right now, 'cause I can't. Wait, that's how well I get it. Yeah. Oh, Magdalene, let me see all the cameras. Please do not shut up. Oh wait, not live live? We're live? This one up? Let me see all the cameras. Oh, he's not. Typical. Bring it up. Oh wait, oh, you turn off your mic. Oh, you gotta go back. Yeah. No, they're off. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, BYM family. Woo! We are back for another week of Hot Topic.
Welcome.
As you can see, we have an all ladies table and we are going to keep it real, okay? Just to give you guys an idea of what happened the last time we had Hot Topic, or Hot Seat rather. We had the fellas. We had Brother Daniel, we had Evangelist Gershom, we had Brother Gael, and we had Brother Elise come and keep it real with us about social injustices, the high value man. And they were just giving us straight things from their heart. So we appreciated that. So this time, it's the ladies' turn to keep it real.
Okay, ladies.
We gonna keep it real, right? We gonna keep it real. Okay, so the goal of this series again is to just get real. Sometimes we come to church and we just do service after service, but there are things going on in the world that we have opinions about, and we need to be able to express them not only on a practical level, but also on a biblical level. Because the practical and the biblical work together, right? So it's good for us to just be able to talk about this stuff and just have conversation. So before we get started, I want to introduce our guests. These beautiful ladies. They all came A1 today. Face beat, hair done. Yes. Okay. So we are going to start with, who's on my right? Okay, we're going to start with Sister Rose. Hello, Rose. Say hello to the people.
Hello, everybody. It's going down tonight. It's going down.
Next to Sister Rose, we have the fabulous beauty general.
Hey, you guys.
Jennifer.
I hope you guys are ready for the topics tonight. We are giving it to you real and raw. Right.
Next to Jennifer, we have the studious.
Right.
The prominent.
Right.
Deandra.
Yeah.
Say hello to the people, Deandra.
What's up? I'm so excited to be here with my Bethany fam. Definitely gonna keep it real, so I hope you guys are ready.
Yes. And last but not least, we have Miss Influential.
Follow me on IG, InfoTVNYC.
Oh my gosh.
Yikes.
Listen,
So are you guys excited?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we are.
So
we didn't introduce this beauty queen right
Okay,
now.
we're not gonna just skip over you.
First lady in the making, Miss Gabrielle.
All right.
We're not doing this on YouTube.
Okay.
We are not doing this on YouTube.
The blessed. Highly favored.
All right, ladies.
Highly favored.
Okay,
I see you guys are excited. This is the energy that we need. All right, so we're gonna get started with our first video. So like last or 2 weeks ago, the way tonight is gonna work, we're going to show you guys some videos and some Instagram posts on some topics that we're going to discuss. Please share your comments in the chat.
Right. Put them
We
down
are
below.
going to be feeding off of your concerns, your comments, your questions, okay? It's not just us having a discussion. It's all of us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're watching, okay? So the first video clip that we are going to watch is something that was broadcasted on local news back in February, okay? About a young woman who experienced something very unfortunate, and we're gonna just go right into it, okay?
CS2's Lisa Rosner spoke exclusively with the victim.
Surveillance video shows a group outside this liquor store as a woman walks in alone just before 6 p.m. Monday. The 31-year-old mother says she was buying a bottle of wine after work when two men walked in the shop on West 128th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. She says the man in the red offered to pay.
I politely declined and I said, no thank you, but thank you. Could pay for it myself. And I got ready to walk out. Before I walk out, he basically said that he felt like I thought that I was better than them.
The men followed her out, she says, asking what did she want to do about it.
I just asked them, I said, you're seriously trying to fight me? I'm trying to go about my business.
She says they chased her across the street, kicking her, and one man actually bit her forehead, leaving deep wounds. She says he tried to bite her eye out. Others kicked her.
To bite me and do that, maul me the way that he did, with me screaming and saying that I'm just trying to get my daughter, that's an animal. That's not a person.
Witnesses tell me multiple people called 911. The woman was taken to NYC Health and Hospital's Harlem in stable condition. During the attack, she says her iPhone fell on the ground, and when she went to grab it,
He pried the phone out my hand. He said, "Give me your phone."
she says afterwards someone told her to run because one of the men had done this to someone else before and could come back. The woman, who has not been able to open one eye, says the suspects need to be caught immediately so other people going about their day don't fall prey. In Harlem, Lisa Rosner, CBS 2 News.
And police say they are looking for the men involved.
Wow. So that's pretty deep.
First of all,
Yes, just go right
Right.
into it. What are your
Animal.
reactions, lady?
animal, very much animal. Like, don't get me wrong. I have mixed feelings about this because you guys, we're from New York. Like, you
Right.
know how New York girls are. You don't want to talk to somebody, you're not gonna talk to them. Like,
Right.
if I walk up in a liquor store or wherever I am and somebody tries to talk to me, like, it depends on the energy
Their
that I'm
vibe.
giving. If you come at me disrespectful, I might say something back, but then I know my surroundings. Like,
Right.
I'm not just gonna pop off, especially if I'm outnumbered by men. You know, like, it's just too much. But to bite somebody,
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, because you go in minding your business. You see a group of guys. All right. You holler at me. I didn't want you to buy me a drink. But then why does it have to get to a point where you attack me? And then this makes me think about, like, us. You just said, I have to think about my situation. I feel like as females, every time we're in the street, I have to become like a chameleon. So I have to change how I am in a situation. When I really could just bark at you, I could be polite. But if you keep prying, I should be able to, like, yo, back up.
because why should you be able to disrespect me and I can't say anything to
Right.
defend myself? Like, but
And
then
not-
I'm called the B word.
And
I'm
not to
called-
mention you're a stranger.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, we teach our kids,
I
don't talk to
know you.
strangers.
Right.
I do not know you.
So it's just like, it just takes away the fact that every time I'm walking down the street as a female, I have to change on guard and I have to smile like, thank you. Thank you. Why do I have to smile?
Because how many times has somebody tried to talk to you on a real level, and you're like, no, I have a boyfriend, or no, I'm not
For what?
interested. Like,
Okay.
talk to you.
Yikes.
Okay.
It's never enough. Like, we could be friends. Like, no.
Right.
Like, how many lives do I have to spill out to you?
Right.
And I think what's really unfortunate about this situation is it's a black
Yes.
female and a black group of men.
That is so crazy that you say that, because I've never personally been encountered with them, like a white man doing that to me. I've never been on the street and a bunch of white dudes like it's just trying to holler at you, but like it's like aggressive in a way.
Right.
And it's like, for me, it's sad because, like you said, it's a black brother. It's like they should be the one protecting you. They should be the one like looking out for you, and it's not like that. And low key for me, I feel like I'm from Long Island, but I've always been in the Queens area, especially us growing up in Bethany in Jamaica. We would walk to the Cali block to get some food from the bodega,
Right.
or go to the Cali block
Bodega.
just to get something. Bodega. We don't call it deli, we call it bodega.
accent.
And we would walk and we would always get the guys like, oh yeah, hey yo ma, like let me get your number, or you hear sour in the corner. You hear all types of things on the app. So it's just like you're already put up a guard when
Right.
you're around, and it's sad when you're around black men. I'm sorry.
Right.
And I hate that we have to do that as black women and just as a woman in general, because I don't want to be the woman to incriminate a black man just because he's black,
Right.
you know? And that's just how I feel about it.
But it sucks because me typically, if I was, let's say it's 10 p.m. at night and I'm walking by myself, I'm not talking to no one.
Right.
I'm sorry. And the fact that you expect me to
be
entertain
like, yes.
you means
Oh, yes.
you have no
I'll give you my number.
respect.
Oh, yes.
Like, you have no respect for the fact that I need to take care of myself
Right.
and be mindful of, my interactions. And I just think, this video highlights the root of a lot of black women's trauma, which
Right.
unfortunately is rooted and connected to the black man. A lot of the trauma that a lot of us women have is connected to relationships we have either with our fathers,
Yeah.
a brother who molested us,
Right.
an uncle who, tried to touch us, or, these unfortunate experiences.
Right.
And then to see with all these social injustices happening in the world where black people should be caring for each other,
Right.
2021, you have a group of black men attacking a black woman. How do you expect the United States to look at
Right.
Black Lives Matter or
Right.
all of these things about white on black crime when black on black crime is just as prominent, you know? So I just really think this is a contradiction in our culture. As you know, granted, we're Haitian American, but we are identified as black when people see us. And this is very unfortunate. And honestly, it doesn't help our case.
No, it doesn't. I want to interject really quickly because something you said, I'm going to rewind. You said black women's trauma related to black men. I'm going to just stop on that point right there. Because that's a really heavy, that's a heavy topic. And it's really unfortunate that my sister, who was going to the liquor store minding her business, was not only attacked, but to that point, when we even think about relation of being a black woman and living in the United States, because even though we're Haitian culturally, when someone's looking at us, they just see a black woman. They don't know where we're from. They don't know our cultural background. They don't know your education level. And it's really crazy to see, especially I see like a lot of posts online, like how much trauma sometimes our own brothers inflict on us. And unfortunately, sometimes too, women, we're not perfect either. We inflict pain. But the amount of trauma that I see, especially in relationships, domestic violence, particularly, it's really sad. And I really wish that there was a way that especially men could express their anger in other ways and not resort to fighting. Because I think that's the root of it, not being able to express your anger in a healthy way.
I think also it's very funny because I found that a lot of, well, in conversation with other men, they do make excuses like, well, we already a very aggressive, animalistic people. So it's like, am I like, yeah. So in my head, I'm like,
Tarzan.
So like, for example, I had a conversation with somebody and they were like, well, you have to understand as a woman, especially as a black woman walking down the street, I'm being preyed on. You don't experience that as a man. That every day you think about it, like you be on a train and somebody can masturbate right in front of you. No respect. At the gym, groping you. That doesn't happen to men on a regular basis. And sometimes I'm like, well, you think I would feel some type of way if a woman did? It's just like that kind of mindset is scary to think of for a generation. Like when I have daughters, how they're going to live and treat. It's just like, I understand as black women, we could be, you know, not even black women, just regular as women, human beings, we could be courteous and we could be not, you know, somebody's telling you, I'm like, all right, cool. But then when it's the aggression part, that's just like, why? Why do we have to get it that far?
Some part of me feels like maybe it was just him trying to show out for his boys or whatever. But I feel like we give that excuse to high school kids. Like, you know, you're grown man now at this point, like, harassing a woman. But I also want to ask, like, do you feel like there's something she said? Do you feel like there's something she made to have antagonized him to be like, you know, because he did, and then the newscaster person, she said that he had stated, "Oh, you think you better than us?" Like, why? What would make him say that?
He claimed she had an attitude.
But there's 5.
Okay,
there's like 3, 4, 5.
He claimed she had an attitude. And my question: do you want to say something before I ask the question?
Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, you know, when you think about a scenario like this, and you think about the narrative of the black woman as being bitter, angry, always having an attitude, want to do for them, independent woman, do you think it stems from these kinds of experiences?
I think it definitely is learned behavior. This is not something that like they said, he has done this before. You know what I'm saying? You're in a liquor store. I'm sure you're not sober, so you're on something more than liquor.
It could be we could get that.
I don't think he was sober, but it's definitely learned behavior. This is something that has come about in his community. Like he's seen this somewhere. He's been told that this is okay to do to women, and he thinks it's okay because he's gotten away with it. But now you're on the news, so you know, like, how far are you really willing to go?
And you know, I think the biggest thing for him was his pride was challenged.
Yeah,
that was the biggest thing. The fact that she didn't allow him to pay for her drinks or whatever bottle of alcohol she purchased. Because our brothers can't take no.
Okay.
When the fact that she said no, he felt embarrassed. And because he was embarrassed, that's when he said, "Oh, you think you're better than."
I'm not even gonna hold you. Like maybe y'all are like victims of this too, but like, or guilty of this. But like sometimes I'll and like I'll entertain it just to get out. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying because we have to be a chameleon, and I gotta figure out if I'm gonna get home tonight. Like,
I don't know how many times
and that shouldn't
I've had
happen.
to change my number from giving it out.
Okay,
just
that has
get out.
happened.
Okay,
that has happened.
You give out your number?
I give out my Google number.
So let me ask you a question.
I gave out a fake number.
Let's say it wasn't nighttime. It was two guys or one guy in the morning who asked to pay for her item. Would you have, if that was you, would you have let him?
Yeah, you could pay it.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, so why would you let him pay?
That's right.
I mean, if you're gonna pay, why not?
She talking about free meal. She ain't standing for that one.
Why wouldn't you let him pay?
I
Even if it was
wouldn't
not, it was morning time, just one dude.
I wouldn't because I feel like once you give them an inch, they take a mile.
What's that?
So-
Elaborate.
Because if he pays for your drink, he's gonna think, all right, he's gonna try to follow you to the car and maybe try to go out with you or try to.
What's
I
what's
don't
wrong
know.
with the
That's
guy
kinda
trying? Why can't he
subjective.
try to holler? Like if he's interested, why can't he
But
try
if I
to?
ain't interested, then that's something different.
You've never had a guy pay for anything for you?
She's lying.
Nah, baby, I'm just dependent. Mama.
Oh,
I
she
think-
said she's
I
independent.
think that's definitely subjective because it being at nighttime
Right.
played a tremendous
Right.
deal in. If it was a morning time,
You're with a whole
and it
group
was
of
two of
guys.
y'all, and you offered to pay for my stuff, I might
But
let
naturally,
you.
I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with someone else paying for me, whether that be a male or a female. I personally wouldn't.
Okay.
I'm gonna teach you some
Oh,
things.
so that's another topic.
Jennifer, I don't know. about
That's
that.
another topic.
Listen, dudes expect so much for you for free, and for us not to be able to let you pay for
That's
something,
a topic.
I'm sorry.
That's another topic.
We can't keep doing that.
Okay, so there's something that you said that I want us to look at an Instagram post on, which is this topic of independence. As women, especially, Black women, a lot of, I guess, negative feedback we get from the male species is that we're independent. We're too independent. We just want to do for us. We don't know how to submit and all of these other conversations. So before we get into it, there's this Instagram post. I saw it on this male's story. We're not calling nobody's names. But the Instagram post has said something pretty cool. And I'm going to let our brother Daniel, who's manning the technical stuff for us, put it up for you guys to see.
Danny, shout out to D.
So the Instagram story post says, our generation is becoming so busy trying to prove that women can do what men can do, that women are losing their uniqueness. Women weren't created to do everything a man can do. Women were created to do everything a man can't do. Okay? What are your thoughts on that statement? If you want me to read it again, I'll read it again.
Go ahead.
You can read it again?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Instagram story post says, our generation, talking about us, okay? Millennials, Gen Z, our generation is becoming so busy trying to prove that women can do what men can do, that women are losing their uniqueness. Women weren't created to do everything a man can do. Women were created to do everything a man can't do. What do y'all think about that?
So women were created to do everything a man can't
do.
Some of them think they could do everything, but
right?
Yeah, I do agree that some women think they could do everything. I
Right.
remember like a few years back, my brother was having a conversation with a female, and it was like a back and forth argument. I don't remember particularly what they were arguing about, but it had to do along the lines as like, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't do it either. But I remember a point that Pastor Jonathan in particular, gotta put the name, but he was just like, some things a man, their physical ability may be, how could I say it, stronger, or it's not the same as a woman. I can't even give a good example, but pretty much she was just saying that like the strength of a woman and the strength of a man is two different things. So it's not like it can't be compared. Like you have your strength in certain areas, but there's strengths that something a man could do, but that a woman can never do, and a woman can do, but a man can never do, vice versa. And I feel like that nowadays it's not really a balance. It's kind of like almost a competition. Like I could do better. And I think that's where it becomes dangerous. But there's some truth to that statement. Whoever wrote that or posted that, there's some truth to it. But the last part kind of bothered me a bit. I can't lie.
I think, yeah, I agree. I believe that it has a lot of truth to it, but then I believe that God created us all to balance. So there are things that men can do, and then there's things that women can do. Of course, men can't give birth. That's something we can do. There's an experience that we have that we are involved with that men will never understand. There's the pain aspect. There's the strength aspect. There's the unique experience you have raising up a child that a man will never experience. And then there's also another aspect for a man to provide, to lead. I think where it becomes very fuzzy between men and women is the respect between each other. Because I can't say that I'm a feminist, but I'm more of empowering women and also making sure that they still count. And I think the relationship nowadays, the relationship between men and women are not being respected. So it's just like I feel like women are eager to push for it, and I believe that if there's a disconnect between the two, and I think that's where it is just like it becomes very tough and a battle, because if I'm a woman, I'm able to work and do the extra mile. I shouldn't feel like I'm knocked down. Even if I stay at home, I shouldn't feel like I'm knocked down or I don't have a voice just because you lead. As the leader, you're also supposed to I'm your helpmate. Right. I'm your partner. And I think that's where it becomes very fuzzy, because the two are not, they're not sharing that same light. So I think with I do see it, but yeah, I agree. That last one.
I feel like we are just in a completely different generation than when Adam and Eve were brought to the earth. Like, let's stop trying to paint this picture that women can't do certain things. Like, we are legally able to work now, are we not? Like, we're legally able to do certain things. Like, we have rights. But don't get me wrong, I'm not going to walk around thinking that I don't need a man, or I could do all bad by myself. Like, that's just the mentality of...
But that's also women's trauma speaking. It's not even like...
About what I can do bad all by myself.
Because if I tell you I want to stay at home and spend all your money and raise your kids, you're going to have a problem with it. So I'm going to go to work.
I think, me personally, like, we're Christians, right? So we know when it comes to like how God views the man and how God views the woman, we're equal, right? When the Bible says there's neither female, there's no male, there's no slave, there's no Jew, there's no Gentile, we're all the same in God's eyes. But I think an issue is when we mix cultural stereotypes with Bible and, what we are defining as femininity. Thank you. I think, we take what, has been taught to us to say that if you're a doctor, you're not feminine. No, a male doctor is expressing his masculinity when he's being a doctor, and that's needed in medicine. A female doctor is expressing her female nurturing nature as a woman doctor, and that's needed. And both are, respecting their gender roles by still identifying as the role that God, created them to be. So I think the issue with that is, I do believe there are certain things that the man is supposed to do and embody, and there are certain things that the women are supposed to do and embody. But when I read that post, I'm getting more of like anti-woman. Right. I'm getting the wrong vibe. I'm getting the vibe like, oh yeah, women shouldn't work, or woman, right? Yeah, like women should stay home and just cook. Like, the woman who decides to be a homemaker is just as valuable as a woman who goes in the field. Both of them are being true to their female nature. One is not more important than the other. One is not more female than the other. And I think that stereotype, we need to break that down and see if it's Bible or is it just cultural stuff that's just getting in the mix.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna.
But I really like.
I can't.
Go ahead, Grace. It's disrespectful.
It really was a disrespect. No, but one thing I was gonna add was, to this point, then, what do you guys think about, because this post was talking about this generation and between men and women. Now, I want to know everyone's opinion on because I feel like, just like how you mentioned, from Adam and Eve's time, men are not the same. This is me. It's just my opinion, especially
speaking
being around Haitian American males. They're often coddled.
Wait, say it again. Repeat the question.
Okay, yes. So what I'm saying is, I'm just posing the question to the group because the post was talking about a woman being independent and not being able to do the same thing that men can't do and all of that stuff. Now, just thinking about the males that you know, like these are people that you know, not some Instagram posts, not Kevin Samuels, people you actually know, interact with on a regular basis. And we can even put Haitian men in that bucket as well.
Okay.
Oftentimes we meet men that are like coddled and they're kind of groomed by women.
Right.
And I feel that especially I would be amiss if I didn't mention the disparity of single households,
Right.
where we see Black woman raising the household and that father figure is missing. Then I feel like it kind of changes those perspectives, because I think for a fact that there is, you know, there's things that God has given us as qualities as women that we can do and for men. But what happens in those households when that father figure is kind of missing and that woman does have to take on both roles?
To answer your to comment on your first question, I think it has to do with just men in general. I don't think it's a Haitian men being coddled or Black men being coddled. I think men in general are coddled by their mothers. Whether you want to leave the nest or not is up to you. But I don't think that has to do with just it being a Haitian thing. But I definitely think that they're coddled.
So I want to just jump into the comments real quick. So I'm going to try to get some comments that I missed. So we have Jess Val who says, do you think Christian women can be a feminist? Can Christian women be feminists?
Let's define feminist for people who don't know.
Let's do that.
So who wants to define feminist for us?
Deandra?
You know, I felt like that was coming. I think Gabby's gonna pull up the Google definition.
Okay.
I can just say from what I know, a feminist is basically a woman that is supporting rights of all women, whether that may be pay, how they're respected, but also that caveat is it also includes trans women as well. It includes not only Black women, but all women of all ethnicities, those who identify, those who change over, those who identify, all of those within that.
Because it's evolved, right? The feminist movement has
evolved to be inclusive to those of the trans community and of choice. And it also has aspects of it being sexual liberating as well. And oftentimes most feminists are pro-choice. So there's a lot of different areas and things.
I don't think people really understand how deep.
So right, because
and that's the
I think
thing.
a lot of people
There's-
think it's woman empowerment and that's it. That's surface level.
there's a video we were going to show, but we could show it. But like you did a great job defining it, by the way.
Where's the Google
We have someone who said on the chat that, you know, feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes. So essentially what that's saying is, like you said, you know, advocating for women and, you know, just their rights, you know, equal pay, you know, even when they think about like, you know, terms that are just very male centered, you know, making it more gender neutral, you know, but you also.
There's even gender fluid now.
Yeah.
Like, it's becoming very like a lot to keep up with.
And
so is that under the LGBT
well, this is the
umbrella
thing.
or the feminist umbrella? Because that could be very confusing.
Well, with feminism, from what I understand, like it's evolving. So the early feminists, they were more simple. Like I feel like as a Christian, we can identify with the early feminist movement, like, you know, equal rights, you know.
How early? Because before it didn't include Black people.
Right.
So
Okay, thank you for that.
Talk about it.
Thank you for that. Assuming they included Black
And utopia.
you know, they were advocating for our social benefit, political, you know, economically and all that.
Shout out to Ida B. Wells.
But I think this modern feminist movement that is anti-male, trying to dethrone the male species, male leadership, trying to prove that, you know, the male is not needed, trying to even push lesbianism, and demanding and defending abortion. All of that, as a Christian, I do not think you should identify with the modern feminist movement. Okay, let's get one more comment. We have our evangelist Gershom Durian, who he was commenting on the post that we showed, and he said that I believe that the post wasn't intended to bring down the female ability, but it's a matter of them trying to overpower one another. So from, I guess what he's saying is men and women being in constant competition with each other, which I feel about that.
I can agree with that. I do feel like we each have a role as male and female, and I think a lot of times because of all the movements going on with women empowerment and feminism and all of this, women can tend to try to overweigh the male species. I do think that.
Do you think as women we have control issues?
Say it again.
Do you think women have control issues?
I think we have a mix of control and trust issues. I think it's a mix of both.
But I think it's also due to abuse of it. So if I have my trust with men, let's just put in a smaller pool, black men, and it's being abused, then of course I'm gonna be pushing you off because that's the trauma that most women carry. And a lot of feminists, I can say, sadly, I think a lot of them do carry that kind of trauma with them when they're in battlefield, when they're looking at certain situations, and it's just like, no, I just, like, for example, I think Kevin on stage was having this clip where that chick Angel that he has a podcast with, and she's like, no, I don't want you to pick up this box. The box is really heavy. And he was like, nah, I don't want you to pick it up the box. And it's like, forget it. And now her husband's like, her husband's like, yeah, I don't do that no more. So he's like, he'll look her with the box like, wow, that seems heavy. And it's just like, I think that's where it's just like the battle. Yeah. Because you do lose it in a way. Because guys don't, I think it was just like, now you want to become more independent. Now you want all this on it now.
And I think, I think as women, I'm all for, getting an education, advancing yourself, being the best that you can be. But I just think we just need to make sure that we're clear with our motives behind why we're doing these things. Because let's keep it 100. Sometimes, depending on your background, you are trying to prove something.
But then I also feel like you're exposing something too. Because I feel like a lot of things that have been hidden in dark with the way behavior of men now in this time is being called out. So, like, for example, me being able to hold you accountable in certain things. Now, if I do, now I'm a bitter black woman, or I'm holding you accountable.
And I also feel like it sucks because I feel like men don't keep each other accountable. They
all right, let's talk about that.
They be trying to cover each other, or their silence is almost like you're accepting what they're doing.
Right.
So,
and that's where the good guy complex come in, because now you'll see a dude doing something wrong, and it's just like, well, I'm not part of it. I'm just, but it's just like, it's not all of us, but it's like, did you say something?
So are you
holding accountable?
So are you saying that women are doing more because men aren't doing enough?
I think women are. Oh, that was the question I had, but ask that question again.
The only reason why I would argue against that is because I think women go through the same issues as well with not necessarily holding their sisters accountable. Depending on the type of relationship that you may have with a certain sister, you may not feel comfortable to say certain things because the backlash is even worse woman to woman than I feel even from woman to men.
But even with close friends, like if Debbie did something real off, like she's like, for example, not saying that Debbie is, but she's talking to a real crazy dude, like Debbie. Really, Debbie? Really? But I find like if men are friends and they won't say a thing, that's not my business. That's not my business. And you'll find that in the world, you find that in the church, it's just like, that's not my business.
But going back to what you were saying about if we have control issues, I think that because we've been told that we can't do certain things and we're not good enough and put down so much as women, I think that we do try to compensate for like trying to be strong enough or trying to be good enough as a woman. So when a male tells us that we can't do something, it's kind of like, well, yes, I can. And now I'm going to show you why I can. And that can kind of, take over the relationship from male to female. But I also feel like it has to do a lot with how these men are encouraging and empowering us as well. Because if you were doing your job as a male and putting your sisters up, then maybe we wouldn't feel that we need to be better than you or prove that we're better than you because we don't.
I should have a question, but do we want to show the video?
So you mentioned something about our men not empowering us. So that's going to lead us to our next video. We don't have that much time left, but we're going to transition into our next video, okay? So I think this topic is a topic that I feel like girls talk about all the time when they're like eating food and stuff, but they don't really like talk about it out in the open. So we're going to play the, Umar Johnson.
The doctor.
Excuse me, Dr.
Umar.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Listen,
video.
They had the streamers
totally against interracial relationships.
I am totally against it, and I want to make sure you understand why. It's not because. Cut it out, Envy. Cut it out, Envy.
Don't do that, Envy. I'm gonna be having a serious conversation.
We have a name for it.
We
have a name for it. The Snow Bunny Crisis.
Okay.
I'm against the Snow Bunny Crisis, and I want your white listeners to understand, because people be trying to say stuff like, he's the Black Hitler. I'm not the Black Hitler. I am in no way interested in hurting or harming the life of any human, white, Asian, Chinese. I believe in respecting everybody. The reason I'm against interracial marriage, Envy and Charlemagne, is because marriage is an economic contract. It's an economic contract. Most women do not marry down in status. They marry up. And if you don't believe me, show me a rich white woman married to a broke-ass black man. Have you ever seen a rich white woman marry a broke-ass black man? No, you have not, and you never will. Because marriage ain't about love, it's not colorblind, and it is totally economic. So if marriage is an economic unification in a contract, how can we, who don't have enough already, give so much to the white woman and to white people who have already taken too much when we got all these black women out here who will never get married? Only 1 out of every 4 black women in America will ever taste marriage, and half of them who taste marriage will be divorced within 5 years. If you want to save the black family, you have to protect it. And in order to protect it, you have to be against interracial marriage. You can't say, I love the black family, but I don't have a problem with interracial marriage. Interracial marriage is eliminating the black family because it is not providing our women with enough available and able black men to be their husbands.
So it's not just white women. You just feel white women, Asian,
everybody. Nobody should be marrying out the race because there's political consequences, DJ Envy.
All right, so we know our brother Umar Johnson is a very unique individual with his ideologies, especially about black people. But before we get into interracial marriage and we cover some of the stuff that he said, can we agree as black women that if we see our black man, a fine looking black man walking down the street,
like 6'3" fine, or like
whatever's fine to you, whatever's fine to you, okay, whatever you like.
I'm joking, y'all.
If you see a fine brother walking down the street and you single,
right,
and then you see him by himself, but then he turn around, he go, "Oh, honey," and you see a beautiful white Caucasian woman.
No, we can admit that it's a little.
How would you feel?
It's a little sore to the side.
Why?
Like,
yeah. Come on, speak it.
Before I answer how I feel about that, let me get to that. I feel like it's a little annoying to see because I think the way that men who date interracially have portrayed why they do it, or like, you can have your preference all you want, but don't put black women down in the process. Right. Like, date who you want to date. You know what I'm saying? But don't be like, oh, I'm a date Spanish girls because black girls is too much to deal with. No, they're just as crazy.
But they like it.
Exactly. They like it until it's a darker complexion.
Right.
Which is the black woman.
I think that hurts because, like you said preference, and I think that there was a word that we said, preference versus prejudice. Because I feel like you can have your preference, you can like a certain type, like I'm a big girl, so I know that there's a lot of guys who don't like big girls. But when you put down, oh, that's ugly, that's where I have a problem.
No,
Okay,
I think it also has to do with the fact that y'all are pushing this fetish
Right.
agenda because y'all want lighter skinned babies or y'all want babies.
But
to
where
be
do you think
mixed
that comes
complexion.
from? Where do you think that comes from? Is that self-hate?
I think
Is
it
that
definitely has to do with
preference?
self-hate.
Is, where's that coming from? Because, there are statistics out there, right, that do say that when they look at races, the black man is actually, the type of man among races where they're marrying outside of their race more. And from, I guess you'll say 1980 to 2015, that rate tripled in the black community. And the statistics still show that black women are least likely to marry, period. Not just within their race, but they're least likely to marry.
And I think that's what hurts, because when I see a black man with a white woman, it's not that I'm against interracial marriage. Or
We shouldn't, as Christian,
we
should not be against interracial couples in marriage. Okay, let's put that out there.
Yeah, let's put that out there. But I think it hurts because it's so much, and I think it's the how society present themselves. What you throwing?
I'm sorry, I just saw a comment.
It's the comments.
Can I put it up? Can we?
Go ahead.
So we have our evangelist said, but can we also admit that if you see a black woman's with a Brad Pitt, y'all clapping it up for her?
Yes. But it was Damo's
Yes.
response for me. She said, we want to see black women win, which is not often the case.
Yikes.
Right. But you know what? I can't say this. Well, I don't think we clap it up because a lot of our black women want to be with black men.
Exactly.
It's not, and I had to ask opinion from another guy that he was with a Spanish woman, and then they broke up. They were together for a long time, and I said, "Do you feel like it made you feel good that you were with a Spanish woman?" Like you and we went in a debate, but he couldn't deny, like you present yourself and you're like, wow, yeah, that's mom.
You feel like you made you made
right.
it the black
Right.
But they won't admit it. I think that's the frustration.
They won't admit
too.
it.
They won't admit
And I think also, like, don't get me wrong, there are men, you have your preference, brother,
Right.
go with your preference. God will bless you with your desire of your heart.
Right.
However, you can't be limited by that preference, right? But what I'll say is I do believe that, I don't know, just from my background, I've experienced Haitian people magnify the grimel versus the dark-skinned Haitian. And I know people, family, who've experienced literally prejudice from other black people because they're not light-skinned.
It's all dating back to
And
racism.
literally there have been experiences that family members have dealt with where they were looked at as not having much, not having status because they were dark skinned. So I think my question again is, where does that come from? Yes, we can acknowledge some black men have preferences. Cool. We can acknowledge that it just some people didn't have a preference. It just so happened that they fell in love with a white woman. But I just want to get back to, what is it that is making it become a trigger for us? Is it a trigger because we don't have black men that are available to us because a lot of them are in prison, or a lot of them are in,
it hurts when you
What
see,
is it?
Yeah, because when you see a successful black man, and the pool of that is, okay, most of them is going to either go to jail. Then you have another pool who are turned into homosexuals. And then the small pool of men who actually make it, have gone to college, have been successful, and then grab up.
Y'all yoke them up.
Right. And it's just like, well, I went, like, you're going, you work hard. You made sure that you did what you did. Why can't we build a kingdom together?
Honestly.
And it hurts to see, like, I'm struggling here, but you went, you. Like,
and because you're light bright, all you had to do was show up. You didn't have to put in the work. I honestly feel like other
Light bright.
races
That's what she said. That's what she said.
of women do not understand what black men go through. And I feel like because we can really understand them and we appreciate them fully, we feel like, well, y'all should end up with us. But then when we see y'all with other races who don't really understand you, wouldn't stand in front of a gun for you if a cop was there, and wouldn't really hold you down as like a black woman would,
and we do so much
energy.
already as Black women for our Black men.
Not.
So I'm gonna kind of jump in as devil advocate.
Good.
I'm gonna say I understand why. Not all Black men who choose white women is like
exactly
right. You know, they're trying to revolutionize. Maybe it's just the offerings that they have in front of them, the college or they're around
environment,
or even their father maybe perhaps had, there's mixed families and that's what they like. I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt to that group, right? My only issue is when I see the Black man who's around Black women and they are blatant with their response as to why they don't choose to date a Black woman, whether that may be, oh, I don't want to deal with a woman because of these type of stereotypes and these things. It's interesting because in the clip that Dr. Umar was talking about protecting the Black family, to me, that is so important. And it just brings me back. So under Lyndon B. Johnson, there was a socialist. His name was Moynihan. He wrote the Moynihan Report. You guys can look it up. And it was about the Negro family. And when he wrote this study, particularly to talk about poverty and really exposing the Black family, in this report that he wrote, it really highlighted all the households that had single Black women who were head of household of their family, and that they didn't have a husband besides them, and they were the one taking care of the children. They were on welfare, all of these things. So it sometimes saddens me to see now being a 24-year-old woman, and I'm looking at my Black brothers and I'm like, I'm trying to build, I respect my kings. And then it's like, wow, like you don't think we're beautiful, or like we're just a toy, or maybe you just want to play with us, but it's not something that you will take in the long run and for marriage. That's really sad, because when we really look at the root of a lot of I don't even want to go that deep to say that the root of why, the things that the way that they are in America and with the school to prison pipeline and all of these things is because we don't have a nuclear family. But you can't lie, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a difference between having a 2-parent household and when you can have those dependability and people and structure versus when you're not able to do that. I'm not saying that those who have grown up in a single household do not have that advantage. Let me go off the bat and say that, but it's very different.
But do you see how other races are so strong and so big on keeping their race strong and alive? Asian people will marry with Asian people. Indians will marry with Indians, and then Black
arranged
people,
marriages.
We're dying out. If you really want to talk about it, we're really dying out. And then on top of that, Black men are the strongest, and it's scientifically proven. So
I didn't. Can we cite that?
I can't.
Okay. So I want to touch on the comments a little bit about what the people are saying. So we have a Destiny that says, I feel if you're going to intermarry, it depends why. If you're doing it to have mixed babies with green eyes or so the baby isn't dark, that's wrong. And we could agree with that, right?
Yeah. But I don't think anybody just wakes up. Well, okay. Some people do.
Some people do.
But
some people I want to have mixed babies.
Some people do. But I think sometimes people are not digging deeper to find out the root cause of certain things. And that's where I think self-hate plays also, because it's just like, oh no, it's not that I don't like Black women. It's just that's not my preference. It's just like, just saying that. I think you need to go a little deeper. Why? Because your mama's Black and your auntie Black, your sister's Black. What's wrong with the Black woman?
I was watching an interview of Black men who are open about not wanting to date Black women. And unfortunately, a lot of the reasons why is they said, I saw what my mom went through and how it affected her. I can't deal with that trauma. Because Black women, when they come to you, they carry that trauma so much so it's like hard to break through to them.
And that was my question after this, because it's just like, do you feel like men do not want to be with Black women because they're too aggressive?
I think that they're lazy. If you really want to talk about it, I feel like Black men are lazy.
Wait, what?
I feel like Black men are a little lazy. You talking about you don't want to
Wait,
deal with.
you can't say all though.
Nah, I'm not talking about all. I'm talking about the very seldom few who want to choose.
They don't want to work.
They don't want to put in the work. Like,
guys,
you talking about we're hard to deal with. Why is that?
But you can't admit that.
Step up to the plate.
But you can't admit
It's
that
a lot to
sometimes
do
there's
with.
some work that we need to do as women. Though?
Of course, but do you see us walking around like I want a white man because he's gonna let me do what I want?
Well,
like,
we may not walk around like that, but we do walk entitled. We do.
That's because
we
we're
do.
on the lowest scale.
You know,
on the totem pole.
the minute a guy approaches us and from what we see we don't like, we automatically give him attitude, or we like are not.
And white people, women know.
Well, when white people see, excuse me, I don't want to say nothing wrong.
Let me be politically correct.
You know, but we gotta be honest. Like sometimes there are some good black men out there we don't give a chance because of our just like, you know.
Attitude is subjective because that's how some of us.
Wait. Okay, well, let's get back to the comments unless y'all have anything else to say. We had a Just Val that says this mentality of men wanting white women comes from slavery. Do you guys agree with that?
It's a lot.
It's a lot to unravel at once.
Right.
In one answer, yes. But I do feel like it does stem a little bit from slavery because even, you know, back in the day, they wanted a predominant white. They wanted to keep that white light gene running around the earth.
Not white light gene. I think it also deals with what does the white woman represent?
Right.
And how do I look as a black man with this white woman? How she carries herself in a room when, building my status. So do I think that slavery plays a part? I definitely do plays a part, but I think there's so many components from that slavery statement, but I definitely agree.
And I'm going to take one more comment on this before we transition. We have our evangelist again who says,
ooh, she's lit up.
Evangelist Gershom says, can we go back to the trauma conversation? Is there a possibility that black woman has traumatized him, meaning has traumatized the man, hence why he doesn't want to marry one?
So I want to touch on that. What's interesting is, especially when you look at movies, right? When you may see like the kid who may not be as desirable towards others, maybe he's like a nerd, or maybe he's not the bad guy. Sometimes we see that bad guy type of thing appeals to women. And I can understand what Gershom's saying, because if you're someone who's getting bullied or othered growing up, and you feel like, okay, well, you know, the girls around me don't like me, and also other people like me.
And also there are abusive black women, you know, whether they're verbally abusive to their kids, whether they're
Go ahead.
I do agree with that statement. I think sometimes us as black women, we could be very condescending and petty. There's a part of us.
All women.
No, but
all women.
No, women. I
think we have it down to a science, but all women.
No, but I feel like it's a different type of like, we take jabs. I feel like for me, I can say for myself, I have a pettiness in me.
And you know what?
Very transparent. I have a pettiness in me, and sometimes my comments can come out quick, like clockwork. And I feel like us as black women, we be quick. Like our comments just come out like.
Is that part of the aggression?
There was a time when you weren't like that, and why now are you like that? Because you've had
exactly. Were you silent? Or were you silent?
You should really talk about that, because I think that plays a part. Go ahead.
But were you silent or were you silenced?
But then,
because in that situation,
wait.
Sorry, low key, and it's so funny. Another black woman taught me how to be quick.
Yikes!
That's honestly, we're still friends, but. She really there was a point where I could not defend myself. I could not speak up for myself. It wouldn't come quick. Like with her, it would come like that. And I'm like, yo, how do you do it? She literally taught me. We would practice. Can't lie.
Wait,
wait. That is legit how it happened.
You guys practice?
Yeah, like she would say something.
That's the problem. That's demonic. That's demonic.
We have two more comments that I'm gonna touch on, and then we gotta transition to the next topic of the night. Okay, we have Dom Germ that says, I feel like also black men, when they approach white women or a woman of another race, they come correct. But it's not always the case when it's a black woman. What do y'all think about that?
I agree. Because I mean,
what you think, Deandra?
But low-key, do you think it's like it could be, for example, like say if you're from New York, they come a bit more aggressive as opposed to someplace else?
It could just be also how you treat women. If, like, for example, if I'm in a relationship with you and all of your relationships kind of went like you disrespect, you cheating, you're doing all the left field with the black woman, and then when you get the white one, you're like, It's just like when we switch up when a white person is around us in the room, and you got the Sally voice. Like,
but
yeah, no problem. I could get that right to you.
Goodbye. I was gonna add though, I feel like I see that happen more often with black men in the relationship with black women. Like I thought you was gonna bring up the point when like you would see a man constantly cheating, constantly being unfaithful, and then there's the one woman that he's with that he's faithful with. He's posting her on Instagram. This seems like the perfect.
That's the
dime.
trophy one.
And then she's a black woman as well, and you're looking like, well, what does she have that I'm missing?
I feel like sometimes she be lighter. In those situations, she be way lighter.
I can't say. I'm just saying.
I think in those cases it varies. There's so many different reasons.
Because I think sometimes in that situation it could just be
experience. It could be so many different things. Okay, the last thing we'll touch is from Daniel Mulfort that says, that's a great question, Evangelist. Just picking back on what Gershom said. The black man grows up around the black woman. So it's not far-fetched to believe that it is true. That it is true that their trauma that they've dealt with from a black woman is what kind of, influences them not to want to be with a black.
I just want to make a last statement.
And we gotta go to the next. Okay, two from you guys, and then we gotta go.
That there's a trauma, or also I think it's the society buildup. I think it's the preaching. It's the advocacy for the hatred of black women. Like, oh, you too aggressive. You know, Spanish women, they serve us better. I think that's that kind of direction is just like, whoa. I feel like it doesn't have to do only with trauma where a black man like, yeah, that's true. When I was with this black lady, I didn't have to experience that. Yeah. So, dang, she served me a plate. And then if I asked a black woman to serve me a plate, she probably just suck her teeth. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel like
I think it's two.
It's white men, and then it's white women, then it's black men, and then it's every other race, and then it's black women. It's like, at some point you have to acknowledge the trauma and what we have to go through as black women. Like we all the way at the bottom. So when we come at
we at the top.
No.
Okay.
Where society put us is at the bottom.
We're definitely getting more doors open for us, of course. But when you want to talk about walking into a building and you want a job and it's you and a white woman, who's gonna get that job? It's you trying to help me feel comfortable in myself as a black woman that's gonna break those shells down a little bit.
Those were some good points for this topic, guys. So this is the last topic we're about to go into for the night. But before we do that, I just want to give some announcements. Okay, so in 2 weeks, we will be back with Hot Topic, okay? And we're going to have a mix of men and women on this table. So you don't want to miss that. I think that is May 21st. Okay. And then also we do have our youth anniversary that is coming up. That is going to be in June 9th to the 12th. Okay. Please save those dates in your calendar. You do not want to miss out. Okay. So let's get into our next topic. This is kind of a shift, okay? We've been talking about the black men. We'll give y'all a break. And now we're gonna shift, okay? And we're gonna talk about something that is very, very, very prevalent in not only the Haitian church, but the American church at large. So we're gonna show you an Instagram post that our friend, the spiritual world, were put up, okay? And we're going to talk about how we feel about it. So we'll just wait for them to put that up. And the post says, it's time to talk about why my age group has left the church. Why has our age group? So we're talking about the Gen Z. We're talking about the millennials. Why aren't they in the church, y'all? Where are they?
Is this towards just our church, or we're talking about in general?
We could talk about, we don't want to highlight, Bethany on full display, but we could talk about,
You've been waiting for this topic, sis.
We could talk about, the Haitian church from our experience, right? We could just talk about from our experience, but guys, where are they? Where are they? They're on YouTube. What they doing?
I mean, it's the pandemic.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
I think the pandemic was a gateway to get out.
Yeah.
That's the truth, and that's not even just for this generation in general. I feel like with a lot of people, it was a break for many people. But I think one maybe. Okay, one of the things that I hear a lot was the Haitians in general, where the church in general is very judgmental, the way they dress, the way their hair is. Like nowadays, like back in the day, and this is like your generation. I think my generation got it way more easier.
Yes, they did.
And Ro would always tell me like certain things that I would do that if it was her generation,
never.
I would be shunned from the church.
Never.
So
never.
I feel like it's two things. I feel like it's actually I think it's three things. I think one, there's a lack of mentorship. That's number one. Two, I think it's the church not being a place of safety for a lot of people, whether that be with their emotions or with the way they look outside.
Good. I like that one.
And three, accountability maybe as well. So I think those are the three things.
Self-accountability or accountability for your brothers?
I think it goes hand in hand with mentorship.
Okay.
I think that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like accountability with mentorship and mentorship in general, and just being safe emotionally, not feeling judged. So those are the three.
I definitely think that number two of your statement,
out of everything,
is
wait.
I definitely think that one is a big one, because a lot of times, you risk being judged by not only the person that you might be telling your struggle to, but also just not knowing if your little deep dark secrets is going to be safe in that space, or if it's going to go running around the church. A lot of times, people talk, and that's in the church as well. Gossip is very heavy here,
right?
As much as people want to be like, oh well, we're sanctified, and we're still human too. You know what I'm saying? And people's tea be very interesting. But it can feel like it's not safe here, especially when you kind of see other people leave the church because they have kind of been exposed, or they didn't feel like they were handled delicately, and you kind of look at yourself like, well, now I don't want to tell anybody what's going on with me, because you don't know how safe you might feel. And I've actually had people tell me that they felt like, well, they've expressed what they were going through, and they didn't feel like they were accepted or prayed on enough, or
prayed on enough.
Maybe not prayed on enough, but like maybe like
no, like pray. I think she meant not
like people didn't follow up with them.
Like maybe they didn't. I don't want to quote anybody, but maybe they didn't like reach out afterwards to see how the person was doing, like follow up, basically, or something like that. But
go ahead.
One thing I was gonna add too, I think there's just like a simple answer for this. People don't have friends in the church. It starts from friendship. I think when you're in a situation,
but you don't come to church for friends.
Okay.
You always hear that.
No, it's true, but it's like, let's just really be honest. If you're in an environment where you feel comfortable and people that you can truly call friends, versus an environment where you feel outed or othered, like imagine being outed and othered in every other environment, thinking like, okay, I'm at church, like this is my safe haven, and you don't really fit in. It's awkward, and then it's like, well, I can just watch Sarah Jake Roberts on YouTube at home, so I'll just keep it like that.
I think I have three things also. That's a good point. I think one is being relatable. I think a lot of times, church world has shifted so much. I think it got to the Juanita Bynum years where it's just like long skirts, and then the stockings. And I'm glad that we're living in the Mike Todd world where dressing down, that's dope. But I feel like the relatable and being connected to people who are in the church, in the building of the church, and also what I'm going through and what I like. For example, a lot of times you won't hear the church talk about politics or certain things that's happening on their everyday life. Things that are happening to me as a Black woman, things are happening to Black men. They just want to keep that out. Well, patch it up. Jesus saved. He's going to deliver.
Too
Lift
superficial.
up your hands. Yes. And I think for them, it's just like, I have questions. I'm going through a lot of stuff and this is not answering, It's like, that's why I love the fact that we are pushing nowadays, like therapy. Like that wasn't, all I need is Jesus. Yeah. And now that those conversations are not happening. So I think that that's one thing. The second thing, I'll be done. The second thing, I think, especially with the Haitian church, there was a conversation I had. I think burnout happens a lot. I feel like I love my mother and she did a great job raising me. And she put me in a lot of activities in church, which is amazing. And I would do the same because it kept me busy. It kept me out the streets. I build a friendship even nowadays in this table. I think it was the best thing because it was a beautiful experience. I was able to grow in the church, but then, I think responsibility, so much, I had to do this. I was like, there was a season I was in like 5, 6 ministries. And after a while, I'm like, she graduating, she gets to go out and I got to kill myself to come to rehearsal. I have to kill myself to come. So I think the level of burnout, and this happens to so many people.
There's no balance.
Yeah.
It's like you're either it's all in a sense,
right?
Or like,
and it's learned behavior because I would push to go with extra stuff, and I'm just like, whoa, road, have you taken care of yourself? Have you done chilled and experience and bond with other people? That was I think burnout plays also a role where now when coming back to church, it's a turnoff. So now you had this pandemic that dropped. People were so in ministry and so many things, and now it gave him a taste to be like away from everything. Now, do I really want to come back to this?
Because you're like, what do you come back to?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's some stuff in the comment section that I want to touch on, but Debbie, I know you wanted to say something.
I actually was going to touch on the comment section too. I really like this comment.
Which one?
Mr. Manny. I wonder.
Oh yeah, Mr. Manny. Okay, so we'll bypass everybody else and go to Manny first. All right, Mr. Manny said, I feel like, very good, the woke movement has made people feel like they don't need God and or the church to be whole. Very true. If you go on the spiritual words, what do you call it, comment section, right, a lot of people are saying, well, Christianity is religion. It's the white man's religion. You just need relationship. You don't need church. Right. So that is education. Education is a good thing, but at the same time, people are getting educated and also I feel like they're getting educated with everything else in the world and not getting educated enough about the things of God, where they don't know how to marry the two. We have somebody. Yeah. Okay. Look at this one. John said, I feel like we push away our youth members by handling situations in the wrong way. What y'all think about that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
The church don't have class.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the times too, there's situations that happen in the church that is like a first time experience for the people actually trying to enforce what to do next, right, or like to I guess better the situation. So at times, a lot of it could be either mistakes or mishandling certain situations that could have been handled better. So I do agree with that comment where some situations wasn't handled properly, or some situations maybe for the members wouldn't have, like from the outside looking in, they don't understand like if it was actually resolved. Mm-hmm. So I could agree with that.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on about youth not really coming to church. Like I feel like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic is like two different ways to kind of approach it. So like pre-pandemic, I feel if you wasn't really coming to church again, I really think the friendship thing is important. I also like the comment that touched on like how people have dealt with situations, because if you're turned off already by the way someone has approached you, that's already like, I don't want it. And after the pandemic, I'm gonna be transparent and just even say for myself,
be real,
because you know, when it's convenient, I'm not gonna lie, it was really convenient to just, you could do your little workout, my Chloe Tings workout, and I could be watching the sermon, and then like it's done. I don't have to interact with anybody. I don't have to do anything. I can just watch my sermon and go home. And I think often for the people who may justify in saying that you can just watch it online, the fellowship is really important and the accountability. Because even I realized, as much as I could do the sermons and I was able to focus by doing it at home, it's different when people can hold you accountable in your spiritual walk, because it's really easy to hide when you're just kind of giving yourself counsel and you don't really have anybody there to really give it. But I do think, though, that you need to be intentional when you are coming to church about what you're going there for. Because if you're going there in vain or you're not really there to focus, then you honestly could have just stayed home. Save your gas.
And I just want to add that Christ pleaded and actually made it like fellowship is required among us. Like fellowship is a must between us, so we can hold each other accountable, for us to be able to go on the journey. So I feel like sometimes when people are like, well, I could just have my YouTube on home, it's just like, but that's not the only thing, watching that, and it's not the only thing. Having that connection, that community, even the communion, that kind of aspect, it's important that we break bread together, that I share my testimony. Like that experience, it needs to happen within the body of Christ.
But I think that
it's just excessive.
No. Go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry.
Do you guys feel like
You actually went though?
I thought she was gonna let Debbie go.
I was like, no, you could go.
Do you guys feel like it's easier for like a big brother to a little brother to bond or mentor each other? Well, the little brother, rather than like a older woman to a younger woman?
Can you ask that again?
Like, do you feel like it's a difficult situation for like female mentorship as opposed to male mentorship? Like, do you feel like it's harder? Like maybe that's why it's like more of a barrier there.
So which one do you think is doing better?
I think honestly, it's, at least in our church, I can speak and say I think that we have a more difficult time with female mentorship as opposed to male mentorship, because I think honestly, I feel like men can kind of easily just be like, yo, bro, what's going on, blah, 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 and chop it up real quick. As
real
opposed
quick.
to women, okay.
Real quick.
That could be a key
Not
word.
deep.
They don't get to the root.
But I feel like with women, I feel like we naturally have our guards up. We naturally automatically might think that somebody's coming for us. And I can speak from experience, being defensive as opposed to, taking in what could possibly help you in the long run. I think that there definitely is a trust factor there too, with not feeling like you're going to be handled correctly, as the comment said. I think as women, we're going back to what I said before. We fear that maybe our situations might end up as gossip, or, there's that lack of trust with women, or maybe with the women, the girls think that, you're better than me. Like, why do you get to counsel me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's a gray area there.
I agree with it being difficult for women, but I feel like it's harder for men to find, because there's a small pool of men who come to church, period. So you'll stretch like 3-4 guys among a whole bunch of teens. It's very hard for them to gear to that if they're truly, intentional about them mentoring. But I feel like it's harder for the men in terms of how many.
That goes back to what she was saying about not having enough mentorship. I feel like if the older men were mentoring the middle-aged men, then they would be able to, kind of guide.
Right.
So let me ask you a question.
A little bit.
How do you guys think those larger churches, like operate? The ones that, people are, everyone's watching now, like
honestly,
the transformation churches and all of that. How do you think they compare?
I've taken for granted having a small church. Not that we have a small church, but we, as opposed to like my Todd or CCC or something like that. Like, I feel like I've taken it for granted a little bit, because as someone who, you know, was kind of visiting another bigger church.
You're cheating. It's all right. You're cheating.
We forgive you.
A while ago, but I felt like the pastor don't know my name. He doesn't know my family. Like he doesn't know. Like, you know, if I went up to him and told him what was going on, like maybe he might be able to pray for me and discern that I'm still dealing with something or not dealing with something or moving in the right direction. But as opposed to here, where you have a smaller church and you can kind of keep eyes on more people, there's more leadership that you can kind of, you know what I'm saying? I feel like in a smaller setting, it just helps a little bit better to be able to keep that mentorship going. But I feel like it depends on if you want it or not. If I want to put in the work, I'm gonna put in the work. You know what I'm saying? I can be lazy sometimes, especially spiritually. I feel like if I want something, I definitely go for it. It's easy to be complacent and be comfortable in the world. Like eyes be open out there, okay? But you know, when you
Go, Debbie.
So just going back to that comment that you mentioned with men mentorship as opposed to women mentorship, that comment. I think also what plays a part, I guess in particular for us, is like a whole generation left. So I think
Yeah,
like
that's it.
bro. I think that there's such a gap where I think the generation that was supposed to learn is learning now.
Yeah.
So
Lack of mentorship.
Yeah, lack of mentorship is back to that. Like they're trying to figure it out, and on top of that, there's not a lot of them.
And
so
the generation before them,
but
it's gone.
Yes.
Sorry. I just want to say one last thing. Sometimes I also think it's not so scientific either why people don't come to church.
It's not.
Is it just boring?
I mean, because I feel like
Is church just boring?
I wasn't gonna say it's boring, but like, let's just say from a time standpoint, you know, sometimes for people who have to do homework, I know I've been there.
Not using the homework.
No. I'm just saying. Like, some people may be like, okay, especially when you go to like a black church, you know, 3-4 hours, they just want to kind of, you know, get the word and get out. That be meaning another thing too. I feel like there's just other factors into why people may not come. So it's not always so cut and dry.
I think for Bethany in specifically speaking, we used to have our English speaking service. For me, you know, speaking from personal standpoint, I was kind of bitter about that. You know, I really loved the English speaking service, and I feel like sometimes I feel like I only majority get a good word if I'm coming to Friday night, where I know it's gonna be like English worship, English speaking. You know, even if there is translation in Sunday service, I don't know. I just kind of gravitate towards more of a modern church environment for me speaking. I don't know if that maybe played a role too, as far as, you know, people leaving and everything.
You're talking particularly to the Haitian church.
Specific to here, yeah.
Here.
I don't know how.
Not
well,
so
if maybe it might be to a Haitian church too, because I know a lot of my friends who go to Haitian churches, or my family who goes to Haitian churches, and you know, sometimes we be talking about certain topics, and I'm like, they don't teach you that at your church.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, maybe they're not taught a certain way. Like, there's a lot that Bethany has taught me to, you know, deciphering right from wrong. But then I can kind of speak to my friends and speak to my cousins who go to Christian churches who are only talking about prosperity gospel and what is right and wrong as far as revelations. They're not really talking about homosexuality. They're not really talking about how sex is beautiful. They're not really talking about, you know, certain topics that we discuss. So I feel like
definitely agree. I think we benefit a lot in Bethany. Not to make it about it, but then it's a topic about Haitian churches, because us being in Bethany, we were able to talk, press the button, and actually try to move here to the young people and what they're going through. And it's so sad when you talk to other Haitian people who grew up in Haitian church, they do not go back to their Haitian churches. They rather raise their children in another church, and it sucks because we're dying out. The Haitian church are dying out, and they're living in poverty.
Yeah.
How many Haitian churches? Praise be to God. Praise be to God we're here. Praise be to God we're able to be in this building and able to but a lot of Haitian churches are like at a stoop, are at a smaller, because the doctors who went to school, who was raised in your church are leaving. The lawyers are leaving. The people who get, and then our community is growing in terms of wealth. They do not want to stay in the Haitian church because you're not meeting my need, and it just really tells you
a lot of traditionalism.
So then let me ask you a question as we get ready to close. Just gonna put that out there. How do you think? So we transitioned to talk about the Haitian church. What do you think? Yeah, we need to pray, and we know that God, the church is gonna stand firm until the end. We know these things, but how do you think we can change our approach, not to entertain people, but to give people a space where they feel they can return and genuinely want to be here? I think what Deandra said is true. You do have other factors now that are going to make it even that much harder because of COVID. But pushing all of that aside, how do you think we can begin to change or confront certain things that are a block for our people?
Are you talking in terms of the church as a whole, or are you talking about Haitian church?
You could talk about a Haitian church because you guys were talking about Haitian churches, or you could talk about as a church as a whole.
Debbie, what do you think?
I think that in deep intercession and prayer, so much could happen.
Hallelujah.
Honestly, I want to hear your take, Jen, because I feel like you have a lot to say about this.
Well, something's telling me that Road really understands what we want to talk about.
Should this be a part 2?
You repeat the last question.
So yeah, basically, as we wrap this up, we've been talking about why people aren't coming, to church anymore, specifically our generation, the people we know, our friends, why they're no longer interested, right? So the question is, what do you think can be done to start, or what needs to change?
Okay, I think
to counteract that.
I think a lot has to do with the leadership. I think the leadership, because a lot of times, a lot of older people feel threatened by the younger ones that are coming up. I feel like if the leadership has changed their move in embracing the younger people that are coming in, the preachers and everyone who's coming into that seat, deacons, having that being open, then you can change the culture. And I think changing the culture is another thing in the churches. It's like, so a lot of it is a lot of traditions. We usually sing this song on first Sunday. Really? We really don't do this it's just like that. The leadership has to work with the generation. Not that we disrespect it, but we also have to work together. So I feel like once you have our leadership working with the younger people, understanding the zeitgeist of the time, then we can have younger people coming in, or people even in our age group feeling like, okay, I can belong here. I can feel like there's a connection. But I think it has to also do with the leadership, being open to that.
Can I go against the grain and say culture? Church culture a bit?
Oh yeah.
A little, just a little. I know, especially particularly growing up in a Haitian church, there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of politics, and often the politics get in the way. Como se dice? It just sometimes creates an uncomfortable situation, particularly for those who are giving in to the ministry and to the church.
Right.
I think for more people to kind of be involved, to really come, like, I know often Pastor Eddie's really great at really supporting local politicians who particularly want to uplift the Elmont community and have them come and speak. And those type of opportunities where people will come and support, and they'll come and support the church. I think if there was more integration with how we interact with outside people, and that type of outside ministry then allows a segue for us to not just be in the bubble that we're used to and just the community that we're used to serving, because there is a need for ministry outreach outside of the four walls. And I think once we get there, then that kind of invites where we see different types of people who come into our services and walks of life. So yeah.
One of the comments Donald Jermaine put, also smaller churches usually have less resources, and I feel like that's very true. Mass churches or bigger churches, they have opportunities to even hire and pay leaders to do this. You know what I'm saying? When you have leaders who fortunately are doing it out of their own heart and being therapists when they're not trained, it can kind of be difficult. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the lack of resources thing is true. When you have money to shell out to kind of win over the hearts of people who have left, it's easier. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, we don't have opportunity to do like some of the stuff that we've been able to do, like retreats and stuff like that, which drew a lot of people in a lot of times, or revivals, or activities that we used to do,
go into the
holidays.
community.
Go into the communities and do stuff. It can kind of be difficult. And yes, we blame it a lot on COVID and everything that's happened, but I feel like even before COVID, it was a very lack in resources. Thank you. Brother Gershom, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm like, Brother Gershom said bigger churches also receive funding from certain organizations. That's very true. So they can preach on everything.
That's also, what's so funny? Go ahead, finish. That is so true. Okay.
And
no, but what's so funny with bigger churches, one, they have their own problems too, and a lot of people end up leaving because they feel so small. Like the pastor, there's no sort of like relationship. They don't know you. They oftentimes come back to smaller churches just because.
Can you imagine going to the supermarket and seeing your pastor and you know him but he don't know you? Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't like that. I like knowing that my pastor, if he sees me in the street, he can have my back. Or
I'll give bigger churches the benefit of the doubt. A lot of them have small groups, okay? So they have their sense of community. Let's not bash the bigger churches.
We're not bashing because they got the resources.
We can't bash money.
We can't bash Allen. How can we do that? No.
But
you just know how bigger churches, like for example, like CCC, Christian Culture Church, and stuff like that, they get it's hype. Like even churches like Mike Todd, hype. And nothing wrong.
Kanye West going to Allen, hype.
Yes, a lot of these churches
that's
are
a very
big,
traditional.
But that doesn't sustain you.
Yeah, one, it doesn't sustain you, but also they have their problems too, just as much as small churches, probably even a bigger level. So that's why you gotta pray. Whatever church God leads you to is where you're supposed to be.
And I think also, as we get ready to close, I think also the reality is too, the reality is the outside pressures of the world is just increasing. Yeah. Every day, the days are getting even more evil and evil and evil and evil. So the pull to draw people from the church is increasing, which does require the church to be even much more armed spiritually in prayer and fasting to be able to combat those things from a spiritual perspective. But the reality is a lot of our generation just wants to do them right now. Right. They just want to wild out. They just want to live their life. They just want to enjoy. They want to experience what's out there, and not just experience what's out there. Some of them just like messing up. Yeah. They like it.
They want to have that.
Like they just like it. Let's be honest. Some people just like getting drunk. Like they like it.
They want to build up a testimony,
and they sometimes want that to be their testimony.
A lot of people are not ready to even take church, although it's not church, but some people are not ready to take this seriously. So as much as we as a church need to be ready to, fix what's in us so that we're not pushing them away, the reality is people are just drifting away. You have all these new ideologies that come out every morning. It's like something else comes out every day. Yeah. People believe in whatever they want to believe. So I think, again, the church, we need to be mindful and aware of what's going on. But at the same time, we can't feel like it's totally our responsibility. So that's it, guys.
Really enjoyed you guys.
That's it. We're done. It was a pleasure having conversation.
I hope you guys enjoyed it out there too. Like,
Thank you guys for the comments.
How do you guys feel about tonight on our comments?
Make sure you
I thought you were wrapping up.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, let us know how you guys felt about tonight.
I couldn't hear. Yes. So in the comment section, please let us know how you felt. Even type in some of the things that you would like to talk about when the men and the women come together. Even if you don't, type stuff in the chat, you can always email us at BethanyYouthMinistries@gmail.com. So we're open to your suggestions and your comments. Again, thank you for joining us.
Yes,
we love you guys. We love you. We love you. Don't sleep on BYM. More things are to come. God is working.
We're coming back full force.
We love you guys.
Love you guys. Bye.
Don't forget forget to check out my new album, Gyra, Maverick City. Love you guys.
Wait, what? What?